Why chosen ones are alone or broke? That doesn't seem fair, does it? Some say it's because they're too pure for this world. Others believe it's a curse in disguise. But what if being alone or broke isn't a punishment, but a divine preparation? Welcome, friend. I'm honored you're here with Grace Bible Stories. In today's episode, we're diving deep into the mystery of why the most spiritually gifted often feel left out, misunderstood, or financially stuck. You'll meet Sarah, a woman whose quiet strength and silent struggle may reflect your own. But before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. And stay until the end, because something in this story might awaken something powerful in you. Let me take you into Sarah's world. Part 1. The weight of being different. You ever wonder why the more kind-hearted you are, the more misunderstood you become? Sarah did too. She's 35, a high school English teacher in a small town just outside Denver. Quiet but radiant. The kind of woman who remembers birthdays, brings extra snacks for the kids who forget lunch, and stays late just to help a student process their grief through poetry. And yet, she often walks the halls like a ghost. Her colleagues smile politely but rarely engage. Invitations to gatherings? Almost never. In church, she lifts her hands in worship, but after service, people seem to avoid eye contact. Too intense, someone once whispered behind her back. Too deep. She makes people uncomfortable. Even her last relationship ended with him saying, "You're just too much." And Sarah? She started asking herself, is it wrong to care this deeply? To think this much? To feel so fully? But, friend, what if it's not wrong at all? What if it's holy? Think of Joseph from the Bible. Loved by God, favored with dreams, yet betrayed by his own brothers. Thrown into a pit not because he was evil, but because he was different. Set apart. Maybe that's you too. Maybe your depth isn't a flaw, it's a mirror. And not everyone is ready to see themselves reflected in it. Here's a hard truth. People sometimes reject what they don't understand. And when your soul vibrates on a frequency that challenges their comfort, they pull away. But that doesn't mean you should dim your light. What if your loneliness isn't evidence that something's wrong with you, but proof that you're walking a road few dare to travel? So let me ask you this, is being too good the reason people walk away? Or is it that your goodness exposes what they haven't yet healed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever been called too much, type "I'm not too much." I'm chosen. I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your story. Because your voice matters. And in this space, you belong. Let's keep going, because what's next might just reframe everything you thought you knew about rejection. Part 2. The light that both attracts and repels. Have you ever noticed how some people are drawn to you, at first, only to suddenly back away without explanation? Sarah has. She's the kind of woman people initially admire. "You have this calming energy," they'd say. Strangers would open up to her in grocery lines. Children would cling to her like sunshine. But time after time, relationships that began with warmth ended in silence. People ghosted. Friends faded. Lovers grew distant. At first, Sarah thought she did something wrong. She replayed conversations in her head, searching for mistakes. But what if it wasn't her words that pushed them away? What if it was her light? See, some people live in dim rooms of their own making, comfortable in the shadows. When you walk in glowing with clarity, kindness, and conviction, it can be blinding. Your presence becomes a mirror, reflecting back things they've hidden, even from themselves. Jesus experienced this too. The light of the world, and yet, rejected by his own people. Not because he lacked love, but because his very presence demanded honesty. And that's scary. Sarah's light did the same. When she shared her dreams, people called her unrealistic. When she set boundaries, they called her selfish. But the truth? Her soul was simply vibrating higher than most were willing to meet. Let me ask you this, friend. Have you ever been abandoned, not for doing wrong, but for being fully yourself? And how many times have you dimmed your own light just to be accepted? Comment below with no more dimming if you've ever felt this. Let's build a community where authenticity is honored, not punished. Because your light isn't the problem. It's the proof that you're aligned with something divine. And sometimes, light doesn't just attract, it exposes. And what it exposes, not everyone is ready to face. But don't go anywhere. In the next part, we're going to unpack why people like Sarah, like you, often find themselves financially struggling, even when they're gifted, hardworking, and deeply spiritual. Trust me, it's not what you think. Part 3. Why Chosen Ones Struggle Financially. Sarah had a choice. A few years ago, she walked away from a stable, well-paying job in corporate marketing. Not because she wasn't good at it, she was brilliant. But because every morning, as she put on her blazer and fake a smile, something inside her whispered, "You weren't made for this." So she left. She followed a call no one else could hear. Opened a small yoga and healing space in her neighborhood, offering low-cost classes, free meditations, and one-on-one support for trauma survivors. She poured her soul into it. But the bills didn't care about her purpose. Within months, she was behind on rent, eating canned soup, wondering if she made a mistake. Why is it that the people with the biggest hearts so often have the emptiest wallets? Because chosen ones, those with divine callings, often prioritize purpose over profit. They serve first. They give endlessly. But they forget, even light workers need light bills paid. Moses knew this too. Born into Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by wealth, but chose exile for a purpose greater than comfort. And yet, in the wilderness, he had nothing but faith. Friend, maybe you're like Sarah. Maybe you've walked away from what the world calls success to follow a path no one else understands. And now you're asking, God, did I miss it? Did I fail? But what if your financial struggle isn't failure, but refinement? What if you're not being punished, but positioned? Here's something to reflect on. Are you avoiding abundance because you think being spiritual means being broke? Drop a chosen but not broke in the comments if this hits home. Because we're not done yet. In the next part, we'll uncover the hidden purpose behind isolation and why your loneliest seasons might just be your most sacred. Part 4. The Divine Isolation. There was a season when Sarah lost everything. Her studio closed. Her friends went silent. Even her family grew distant, tired of supporting a path they couldn't understand. One by one, the voices around her faded. And for the first time in her life, the only sound she heard was silence. But in that silence, something sacred began. Mornings became quiet rituals, tea steaming in chipped mugs, barefoot walks on dewy grass, breath sinking with the sunrise. With no one else to perform for, Sarah began meeting the one person she'd long neglected, herself. See, isolation feels cruel, but often, it's holy. When God sets you apart, it's not always for applause, it's for alignment. He pulls you away, not to punish you, but to purify you. Like David hiding in caves, anointed but not yet crowned. Like Moses in the wilderness, stripped of royalty, learning the language of humility. Because before God elevates you publicly, He refines you privately. Friend, if you're in a lonely season right now, don't rush it. Don't numb it. Don't fight it. Sit in it. Lean into it. Because in the stillness, you'll hear things noise could never teach you. In the quiet, you'll finally hear Him. Here's a thought. What if the very loneliness you're trying to escape is the sacred classroom God is using to prepare you? Comment below, alone, but aligned. Let this be your declaration today. And stay with me, because up next, we'll break down a truth that could set generations free, the beliefs you've inherited about money, worth, and belonging, and why you were chosen to break them. Part 5. Breaking Generational Patterns. One afternoon, Sarah sat with her journal and asked herself a simple but haunting question. Where did my fear of abundance come from? And suddenly, she saw her mother. A kind woman. Selfless. Always giving. Always exhausted. Sarah remembered watching her clip coupons, deny herself small joys, and say with a bitter smile, people like us don't get ahead, we just survive. It hit her like a wave. She wasn't just struggling with money. She was carrying generations of beliefs about money, worth, and belonging. Maybe you are too. Maybe someone in your bloodline believed that to be spiritual meant to struggle. That to be kind meant to be broke. That having just enough was the holy thing. But friend, you were not chosen to repeat, you were chosen to rewrite. You are the turning point. The first in the line to say, no more. And yes, it's hard. Because breaking patterns feels like breaking loyalty. But honoring your family doesn't mean repeating their pain. It means transforming it. So let me ask you, do you believe, deep down, that abundance is unsafe? That it makes you less spiritual? Be honest. Comment below, I release what no longer serves me. You are not selfish for wanting overflow. You are sacred soil. And what grows in you will bless those who come after. Coming up next, we're going to turn this pain into power with practical tools you can apply today. It's time to rise. Part 6. The Reversal, Turning Pain into Power. Sarah didn't wake up one day healed. No lightning bolt. No booming voice from the heavens. Just a whisper inside, you're not broken. You're becoming. That's when she began the shift. She started learning about energy, money, mindset. She wrote down every belief she had about lack and questioned it. She raised her rates without apology. She opened an online class, letting her message reach far beyond her town. She stopped asking for permission to be who she already was, enough. And you, friend, you can begin too. Here are 3 small but powerful steps you can take today. Write down 3 beliefs you hold about money and rewrite them. turn "I'm not good with money" into "I am learning to steward abundance wisely." Do one thing today that scares you but leads you forward. Even if it's small. Especially if it's small. Create 10 minutes of sacred solitude every morning. No phone. No noise. Just you and your spirit. Let clarity find you in the stillness. Remember, your pain didn't come to punish you, it came to prepare you. And now, it's your time to rise. If this part resonates, type "I'm stepping into overflow" in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because healing like this deserves to be shared. Now, let's bring this story home. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end of this video. If you're still here, I know this message spoke to something deep inside you. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are becoming, and the silence, the struggle, the setbacks, they weren't meant to destroy you, but to reveal who you truly are. And here's something I want to give just to you, for staying until the very last moment. The most anointed people are often hidden in plain sight, not because God forgot them, but because He's preparing them for impact, not applause. So if you've ever felt invisible, maybe it's because God is saving your unveiling for something greater. Now I'd truly love to hear from you. Which part of today's message resonated most with your heart? Or simply comment this affirmation: "I am chosen. I am not alone." Your words might be the light someone else scrolling through the comments needs today. And remember this: you're not behind. You're not lost. You're right on time for what heaven has assigned to your life. If this message moves something inside you, go ahead and subscribe to Grace Bible Stories and tap the bell icon, because we're creating space for souls like yours to heal, grow, and rise. You are chosen, and your story is just getting started. See you soon.